The CMO Confidential podcast is a proud member of the I Hear Everything podcast network. Looking to launch or scale your podcast? I Hear Everything delivers podcast production, growth, and monetization solutions that transform your words into profit. Ready to give your brand a voice? Then visit iheareverything.com.
Welcome to CMO Confidential, the podcast that takes you inside the drama, decisions, and choices that go with being the head of marketing. Hosted by five-time CMO Mike Linton.
Typeface has completely changed the process of large campaign executions. Everyone knows AI can help with images and headlines, but the real impact is making the leap from a creative brief to a live, multi-channel, large campaign at speed. Typeface just announced its marketing orchestration engine, the first platform built to automate campaign workflows. You can roll out campaigns that used to take months in just a few hours. Typeface uses agentic AI to orchestrate the entire process, taking one campaign and instantly orchestrating it into thousands of personalized experiences across ads, email, and video. Major brands like ASICS and Post Holdings are already transforming their marketing with Typeface. See how to move from brief to personalized campaigns in hours, not months, at typeface.ai/CMO. Welcome, marketers, advertisers, and those who love them to Chief Marketing Officer Confidential. CMO Confidential is a program that takes you inside the drama, the decisions, and the politics that go with being the head of marketing at any company in what is one of the most scrutinized jobs in the executive suite. I'm Mike Linton, the former Chief Marketing Officer of Best Buy, eBay, Farmers Insurance, and Ancestry.com, here today with my guest, Joe Gagliese. Today's topic, he told me how to say that too, by the way. Today's topic, what does social first even mean? And is it right for you? Now, Joe is the co-founder and co-CEO of Viral Nation, a 12-year-old social first marketing and technology company that specializes in influencer and creator marketing, creative content development, and creator talent. There's a lot of creators in there. Their belief is that the marketplace is shifting from media-centric marketing to creator and social-centric marketing. And they've worked with over many of the world's leading brands by growing into a global business. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you. The Italian accent was strong on the last name.
You know, well, you had me practice before we started. That's the most practice we have ever done for a show.
I always tell it's funny because I'm the only Italian in my extended family who ended up in marketing. So I'm a solo Italian marketer.
Okay, very good. Molto bene. All right, let's start at the top. Give us the actual definition in your mind of social, and then what does social first even mean? We've had all kinds of firsts over the last few decades: mobile first, digital first, customer first, cloud first. Give us your take on social first.
You know what, Mike, it's pretty simple. Social first means you stop treating social like a place where you recycle campaigns kind of built somewhere else. And you start with the reality that for most consumers, discovery, influence, and validation increasingly is actually happening on social, especially as we think about commerce. So social first is really a planning philosophy, which is built from how people pay attention now, not how brands used to buy attention. So when you think about what's happened, Mike, the world has changed completely, but the tactics of how we go to market with marketing have been slower to change. And now when you think about the average consumer, be it myself, me and my wife built a house, Mike, and I guarantee about 90% of the things in my home came from Pinterest. I always tell people, Mike, all the time, it's one of my funniest sayings, that I haven't bought something for over $100 in the last 8 years without watching a YouTube review about it first. Discovery and commerce is really happening at the intersection of social, and social first really just means a brand who understands that they develop for social first and then drive the standard marketing later. And that's really what it entails.
Hey, Joe, can I draw a parallel between this and, mobile first, where there was that big pivot where everybody started saying, instead of designing for the web, I'm going to design for the phone and then the web second. Is that what you're saying this is like, or is it something different?
Well, it's funny because that one was the adaptation, right? We were spending more time on our devices. Why? Because of social, right? So I think
Yeah.
those are tied very similarly. I think that these firsts really emulate the change, right? For instance, we've been hearing a lot recently, Mike, about Viral Nation just launched an AGO practice. So now we're doing a lot of AI SEO. And if you look up Viral Nation on any LLM in the world, we'll come up in first place. We've been working on it for 3 years. That is the next website. That is the next commerce. So I think in the not so distant future, we'll hear AI first. So I think that these first really emulate where people spend their time. And I would argue right now it's predominantly on social media. Second would be, real life. And then third is likely now becoming AI. But it's just really a representation of where the people are.
Okay, so let's talk about what is social, what is a social strategy? Is it a strategy? Is it media? Is it something else? And how do you think about it in terms of nesting it in to all the other marketing that's already there?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's cool, Mike, because social really just started as a channel, right? And then marketers treated it like a content outlet. Today, the best marketers treat it more as a behavioral system. So when you think about strategy and social, it's less about a particular idea or creative. What social allows us to do now, Mike, that no other form of marketing really ever has been able to do is listen to people. So the big change, in my opinion, Mike, is that creators and social media is a version of the people's media. So not too long ago, there were 7 companies who control basically everything that we see. There was a big democratization of that. Now people control the media. So social media is where we communicate. That's where our communities live, et cetera. So when we think about strategy and social, it's not about just the good idea. It's about reading the signals from social that tell you what the customer wants, and then in turn translating that into something meaningful. So strategy on social is very different than standard advertising in that you can't build for it. You need to build what it wants. And the closer you get to building what social wants is where you start to see things like this went viral, or Poppy gets acquired by X amount of billions of dollars, or Logan Paul's line is the #1 selling in Walmart. These are not strategies. These are manipulation of community at scale in a new form of media.
So I have a couple follow-ons to this, which is, if you go back 20 years when Facebook comes on the scene and kind of starts really pushing a lot of this category, and everyone thought, oh, Facebook's just for the young people, and now it's definitely not just for the young people. Where is it now? And then how do brands stay true to themselves in this game? Because the way you just described it, almost by definition, the brand is what the people want the brand to be versus what the brand wants to be.
Well, we're just living in a world of radical transparency, Mike. So now, back in the day, brands used to get away with a lot of stuff, right? So you would run an advertising campaign, you put out a product. Maybe the product wasn't exactly where you wanted it to be, but you put it out anyway for timeline or for stock purposes or whatever it may be, and you might get away with it.
Yeah.
The problem today for brands is that it's not a decision if you want to be social or not. It's a prerequisite. And how you treat that prerequisite means everything. So now when Sonos speakers or Ford puts out a new model, they almost have to put out the model, Mike, and they wait to see what the internet and what social media says before they continue. Because we've seen just in the last 12 to 24 months, brands completely miss based off social. A really
Like
cool,
what's a great big miss that you can put on the table?
beautiful example of that, Mike, is in the automotive space. Social is probably in the top 5 most important industries for social is automotive. And funny enough, automotive is probably the most behind in social. But what happens in automotive is they release a car and this network of thousands of reviewers get their hands on it and they do these reviews. Those reviews end up becoming religion that people follow in order to make the acquisition. So a cool example was when Ford launched their EV line. So
Yeah.
when they launch their EV trucks, they have big stockpiles of these EV trucks and they're having a hard time with them. But if you go to YouTube and you actually look at the sentiment of the reviews around that vehicle from start to now, they've been mostly detractors, right? Versus an organization that figures out how to kind of tap into that in a way that is natural, sees the opposite results. So now companies are at bay to these social communities, and the communities, us, determine the success of those products.
Hey, can I go back to the Ford thing? Is that an organic network of car reviewers, or is that like all the people at Car and Driver and Automotive Weekly or whatever else they have
No, so
looking at
so
this?
those
Or
have those have become a much less relevant channel because the biggest intersection of difference between the traditional publishers, Mike, and the creator publishers, or the creators are not analysts, they're everyday users. So one of the things you'll see in the automotive category, Mike, is a thing called 1-year review. So people do a 1-year review of the vehicle. I've had the vehicle for 1 year, here's my take. That's not something that's ever made its way to traditional automotive media, right? So it's a much more relatable and authentic, and I don't love that word, but it's true, channel to understand what's going on. For instance, I read a stat the other day, Mike, that folks are going into a dealer and they know more about the car than the actual salesperson does. That's the first time in history, right? First, you used to try to get people to the dealer. Now the dealer is the last step because the client comes in already sold. And that's happening with social.
We are taking a short break from this show for a word from our sponsor, Typeface.
To orchestrate workflows across channels, meet Arc Agents, your AI teammates handling complexity so you can focus on what matters. All within a reimagined workspace where you and AI create as one. Spaces works the way you do. Create anything, from documents to videos to entire campaigns, at scale. Our agents help you craft campaign storyboards, powered by your Brand Hub, giving you the perfect starting point. Transform one asset into countless variations for every audience and market. Join industry leaders already reimagining their content lifecycle with Typeface. Welcome to marketing's next chapter, where every story finds its voice.
Now, back to our discussion.
So just to make sure I have it right, you're saying these networks and these reviewers and these creators, they organically just exist. And
Yes.
And then when the brands though reach out and then take them over or help them or give them stuff, how does the network stay true to itself versus become co-opted by the brands?
So that's a much bigger conversation, Mike, because this is the fragmentation of social that's causing a problem for most brands, because most brands look at these things as singular challenges. A really good brand, Mike, who is social first and operating at scale, right, is able to tackle wherever the opportunity might lie, that being one of them. But the problem is today is they're looking at each one separately. So for automotive, for instance, you just don't want to go pay a guy to do a good review. That won't work, right? So in that space, what you need to do is you got to have them come to your events. You got to give them a first look at a vehicle. You have to develop relationships with the creators who are speaking about the brand, because you're trying to increase your odds of that positivity versus pay for it. Whereas when you're in a market where, let's say you're selling on Amazon or through commerce, there's actually creators who make a living from promoting products to sell on Amazon.
Right.
So it depends on the type of customer and the type of product, what indicates the strategy. But what all these big brands around the world, Mike, are missing is that none of them actually have the internal organizational setup or rigor necessary to run social first. Because if they did, you can capitalize on those things differently. A lot of them today will either hire multiple agencies to do all different parts of social, or they will go after one component where another competitor is going. But you're starting to see, Mike, now that massive shift, right? You're seeing Unilever go 50% into creators. Some of our nation's clients have pivoted from media-led to fully social media-led today. So that's really the big transition, is not in the small stuff. It's in how these companies rebuild themselves from being media plan ahead, comms and organic, to this always on social engine that is basically driving all of global commerce. And when you get that right, then you can basically adapt your company's marketing into those specific channels, whether it's automotive or reviews, or whether it's paying for creators, whether it's, even celebrity today, Mike. We're doing celebrity campaigns, but we only work with celebrities who are big on social.
Yeah.
Right. Because we don't want to pay for the extra media cost that comes with buying a commercial and all those things. We can get a celebrity who gets more views than the Super Bowl. Right. So it's just this adaptation to now that allows us into all those different channels easily.
Hey, so I want to go into what makes a strategy in a minute, but I want to say, if I am a brand and I start inviting all these creators to like drive my Ford or whatever, and then I give them free stuff and everything else, do I over time ruin the credibility of the channel because I am essentially gifting these people things? Like, how do I keep my authentic social credibility as a creator in this?
Well, it all really just comes down to the approach from the brand, right? Like speaking candidly, there's lots of brands out there who would say, I'm paying for this and this is what I want to be said.
Yeah.
I think the best approach today in like 2026 is a company should have a brand they believe in and stand behind. They should put that brand they believe in, stand behind between the people with the microphone and let them do their thing, right? That question, Mike, only becomes a problem if a brand has something to hide or something's wrong. Right? If things are what they say they are, giving the creator the unobstructed ability to be able to experience what you've developed goes a long way. One of our really incredible new clients is Lucid Motors. And Lucid Motors is a very strong community engaged company. And for instance, their drivers are their biggest advocates. Right? They have customers making content about how much they love the vehicles. And they purchased those vehicles and are still saying those great things. So it's just about aligning those specific touch points together in a way that's meaningful. Like for instance, Mike, Viral Nation, one of the things that makes us unique is we're one of the world leaders on the social AI side. So what we're able to do, Mike, for instance, on that specific thing is we can go to Ford and say, hey, Ford, well, why don't we only bring creators in front of you who already drive a Ford, who have already talked positively about Ford in the past? We as Viral Nation, it's our job, not the brand's job, to figure out how we land the right folks and the right message and the right content for that specific brand. And we've developed and operate our own technologies to kind of do that piece. And that piece is the difference between I just hired a guy who likes GMC who just talked about my Ford and now I'm in trouble, and the authentic nature of what we're after.
So help me with, we have all of our listeners out here. How should they evaluate this topic in their head?
Well, I think it's first
like from a strategy standpoint, I got to think about, I want to develop this strategy. What do I do? How do I think about it?
Yeah, I think it's first. I think the main critical point, Mike, is you have to acknowledge whether you believe it to be true or not. I think what's happening in the market right now, Mike, is people are on the fence between what's worked for a long time and what their KPIs and objectives are tied to, and the reality of how the world's moving. So what I've seen is the social first leaders, marketers who have made the transition and who are growing, had a moment, Mike, where they went, you know what? A lot has changed, and I know this is a harder channel. It's going to create a lot of work, but I'm willing to do that to future-proof this business or to continue to grow this business. So I think first is the acknowledgement, because I think a lot of organizations still today, Mike, believe it or not, are, I like this, it works, my KPIs for how I get my bonus are tied to it, et cetera, versus a lot of the people who are winning in social are ones who went, I don't care about any of that stuff. I care about making this business big and strong, and I want to be where the people are and they make the transition. So I think that's the first thing, is really committing to, do I believe that the modern consumer is a social first consumer? If the answer is yes, that's the first step. I think second is evaluating your own company first. A lot of people, Mike, will run out and just, call a Viral Nation. But the problem with that is that, like media took a long time to be able to do, a lot of these organizations, Mike, today don't actually have social media leadership, right? It's generally very antiquated, or it's small, or it's junior staff, or they don't have a VP there. So understanding what does our organization need to look like and what do we need on our side to be successful in social, I think is a big misstep. Because then you end up hiring a viral nation, and now all of a sudden you're under-resourced against all of the things that come back from our side when you're operating at that level. I think third is breaking this notion of fragmentation in social, Mike, as the third thought, which is social is a living organism, Mike. It's very different than TV and broadcast and programmatic in that it actually all works together really natively. So community management, for instance, Mike, works exhaustively with creator marketing. Creator marketing works incredible with paid social. Paid social works incredible with conversion and CPA. So these pieces all work. Most of the modern companies, Mike, believe it or not, still have social between 3 divisions internally and 6 outside parties.
No, I believe that. I also, should all brands be social first? I mean, the way you're talking about it, it's almost like, this is the future for every brand. Is there a little curve you would give for more likely to need social than others?
Yeah, a poor fit is usually not kind of about category, Mike. It's about readiness, right? So if your legal process takes 6 weeks to get something through, or your leadership hates creative risk, or your product story is unclear, social's not for you, right? But when you also think about the buyer journey, if in your buyer journey has a very low frequency and is very relationship driven, then you know what, social's not as important. I also want to caveat, Mike, by I'm one of the social guys who thinks that traditional advertising is critical. I'm not a replace theory social guy. I just believe very strongly that if you put social as the first mechanism and you build behind it, you can create maximum output. But I do believe that there's certain situations where social doesn't become the driver, but then it will morph into something else. I'll give you an example, Mike. For Deloitte, you might argue that's a relationship business. They drive those commercial impact. My view for Deloitte wouldn't be running creator campaigns. It might be, how do we turn our top 10 global partners into LinkedIn creators so that we get more attention in those specific verticals? So social's not always just about, pay a creator, do some paid social, et cetera. It can form in many different ways, but I think social is critical in enterprise, as critical as it is in small business.
Hey, and Joe, how do I measure this? If let's say, we'll go to how do you know you're ready in a minute, but let's say, how do I measure this thing? I'm gonna say, okay, I've got to go do all this, and how am I going to measure it? Because measurement. Everyone always wants measurement, and you can measure all the performance marketing and blah blah blah. The brand is harder, blah blah blah. Tell me about this one.
Well, welcome to the Achilles heel of social media. Mike, that's been the bane of my existence for 12 years. It's actually
I'm glad I could bring that up, Joe.
Yeah, Viral Nation has spent more in that area than any other area of innovation inside of our company. And the reason is simple. We believe and we know emphatically, I know on my kids, that it is the best driver of conversion. What's been difficult, Mike, however, is that because the social platforms are inherently advertising companies, right? Meta's an advertising company, Google and YouTube are an advertising company. Their main objective is to stop people from tracking anything that's not going through them. So you have this setup right out of the gate where you have an advertiser and you have advertisers like me advertising on an advertiser. So what they did was they put up this big wall, and that wall's been there, Mike, really since the beginning, all the way to this day. So what we've had to do is we've had to adapt. So we have 4 different systems of measurement. One is the simple stuff, brand lift, neuro studies, the things you're used to, the Nielsen of it all. We can do that. Part 2 is what we kind of dub as time series. So what we've developed is our own systems to be able to determine conversion, but we use time. So if engagement from a campaign is really high over a period of time, we can actually reverse correlate that into sales for a retailer, for a commerce company, et cetera. So we use time graphing in order to do some of that. Third is our partnerships with the platforms allow us to get more information than your average Joe. So we've been able to develop our own models. One of them is called the culture quotient, which is basically understanding the value of the viewership to brand and conversion acknowledgement. And we've spent about 3.5 years developing that tool. And then the final one, and it's interesting because it's the one I was least excited about that ended up being something we do quite a bit, which is we actually adapt and build into existing mixed media models, Mike. So one of the big maturity steps we took 2 years ago was Viral Nation. We're one of the only social companies we have almost like a 27-person business intelligence team that does just reporting. And we had them work on methods and methodologies to be able to back into enterprise brands' existing mixed media models that they're running already. That's been a big unlock. So basically, Mike, we've exhausted everything. The reality with social is you're never going to be able to go direct link to conversion perfectly on every campaign.
Yeah, so it's a little like brand.
Exactly right.
But I want to say, Joe, you got your talking points out super well in the last. I mean, super well.
This is 15 hours a day for 10 years up here.
Hey, if I am interviewing an agency that's not you or somebody I want to hire for a position running my social first strategy, what are questions I should ask them?
Yeah, I think just to keep it simple, Mike, there's like 5 ones that'll make the agency shake a little bit that I think would be good for the audience.
Shake.
I think number one is that brands don't ask about creator pricing with the same type of rigor they do with media, meaning you can spend $500,000 on a creator much easily than you can spend $500,000 in media. Yeah. So one of the big questions that's very valuable to ask any company in the social first world is, how do you do creator pricing? How do you think about it? And how do you optimize it? I know that sounds simple, but it's a question maybe asked 1 of 10 times to us, Mike, that I think is really, really relevant.
Wow.
I think number 2 is really, really, really questioning the scale. So can you scale and determining that? Because one of the big things we've learned, Mike, over the years is there's 7,000 agencies that can do $1 million social campaign. There's maybe 5 who can do a $10 million one, right? Because social is a very hands-on business. So when it scales, it breaks. So if I'm a large enterprise, I'm asking, show me your scale. Show me what it means when things go well and we need to go to the next level. A lot of brands will want to go social first, Mike, get in bed, do all that work, and then when they go to scale, they have to switch to a Viral Nation or someone like Viral Nation.
So you said there's 5, so there's 3 left.
3 left. The other one is brand safety requirements. So in this world, Mike, the scariest thing in social first world is social is as powerful negatively as it is positively. And how we operate, everything that goes out the door needs to be under the condition of brand safety. Far too many companies neglect that component. So asking about how they're basically protecting your brand from those things as we scale, because Mike, no one wants to make $1 million in social and lose 10 million in market valuation because something went wrong. So
that's what makes you such a good agency, are insights like that.
Exactly.
Okay, 4. What's 4?
4 is the advancement in AI. So Mike, any company worth its salt right now needs to be operating with AI at a pretty significant scale in our industry, and checking for that is important because AI is going to be the difference between a campaign output of 5 out of 10 versus 10 out of 10. So understanding a company's maturity in that area is really, 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 really critical. And then lastly is how do you connect all of social? So many companies, Mike, make a mistake of going after one piece and then needing the others and not being able to connect them. So validating with that partner that if you want to add these different social components to work together, is that possible? Again, is a missed question that a lot of brands go, now I got to transition.
So this probably follows on to your last point, but when you look out there, the biggest mistakes you see in the marketplace today that people are making in social?
You know what, Mike? I think the biggest mistake folks are making in social is they're not treating it like a real channel. I think that's the biggest mistake. You have the most powerful mode of communication ever imaginable, and you have it in a black box sitting somewhere between an experiential budget and PR. And I think not taking that channel seriously internally and as a channel in general is you're running out of time to be able to catch some of these companies who are now coming. Mike, over the last 24 months, there's been these companies that have come out of nowhere that should have no ability to touch the toes of these large organizations, who they're going, how do they get there? Well, the reality is they just mastered social first
Like,
marketing.
give us another example on that. Like who?
Poppy,
Oh
the
yeah,
drink
Poppy that got bought.
website,
Yeah.
right? If you think about company like Jake Paul's new line of deodorant and stuff like that is across almost every Walmart in the country. They're doing it, and all they know is social, right? So when you start to see that, Elf Cosmetics is another one, right? Mike, you got people from L'Oreal over the world going, how do they do that? They're so small. How do they do that? Well, they only know social first. They don't know any of the other stuff. So again, it's so powerful when these companies can break into community and hold. And these large organizations just need to get there as quickly as possible.
All right. Well, that brings us to our traditional last question. It's a two-parter. You must take at least one part, but you can take both. Practical advice we haven't talked about yet, and or the funniest story you can tell on the air. You can take both topics or just one, but you must take at least one.
Practical advice. My practical advice, believe it or not, would be to use AI, buy a book called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and go front to back, but translate his words. Because I think that he is one of the most prolific, incredible figures of modern time. And I think a lot of the learnings will really help marketers because of the chaos that we deal with every day. It's just a really special thing, Mike, that, whenever I'm having a hard time, I think about, and it lifts me up.
Well, give me one of those. I have the book. I haven't read it yet, but like there's lines in there that you think are apropos to marketing, is what you're saying, right?
Apropos to the mindset of marketing.
Okay.
When I think about marketers, and I'm not just saying this to be nice to the audience, we're at the front lines. It's not easy. It's not an industry where everyone's your best friend and you get pats on the back. This is a very hard industry. And I think a lot of the times marketers show up every day, crawl into the trench, and they get it done. So I think that what I got from that book was this idea that resilience, you can own it. You can own resilience, and you don't let other things or other people or hard conditions kind of keep you down. And it was just one of the only things I've ever read in my life that stuck at that level. But yeah, I think marketers are warriors.
All right. Well, this is the first time Marcus Aurelius has ever been referenced on our show. So thank you, Joe. And thanks for listening to CMO Confidential, everyone. New shows drop every Tuesday, and you can find all of our more than 160 shows on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, which include If You Drop the Best Marketers of the 1950s into Today's Environment, How Would They Do? What Your Agency Wants to Tell You But Won't, Parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is AI an extinction event for agencies? And the truth behind the curtain in B2B marketing. Hey, all you marketers, stay safe out there. This is Mike Linton signing off for CMO Confidential. Typeface is changing the way to think about brand marketing at scale. Their marketing orchestration engine is the first of its kind and built specifically for the enterprise. The orchestration engine uses shared brand intelligence, designed to turn brand guidelines into personalized voice, visuals, and messaging delivered in a way that fits the context of your audience. It's how brands like ASICS and Post Holdings scale what works without sacrificing quality. Start orchestrating your brand at typeface.ai/CMO.